What's going on? This is your man John Fortune, your host of the Frustrated Fan Sports Show. And today I need to talk about this Shedeur Sanders situation. And I'm going to say, even though a lot of people have been showing their displeasure with the situation, I'm going to go further than everybody else because I understand that there are a lot of people who want to keep their jobs. And I understand that some people don't want to go too far. But this right here, the evil, disgusting display by the NFL to try to prove a point to a kid, a young man who only wants to go out there and play, to sit up there and do something as pitiful and awful, and the word disgusting just keeps coming up for me, is absolutely insane. And if nobody felt that collusion was involved, you're out of your mind. There's no way in hell you telling me that every evaluator at every team, especially those quarterback needy teams, and I'm going to get to all of them in a minute, but you're telling me all these evaluators somehow, some way felt that Shedeur Sanders, the best quarterback in college last year, somehow he wasn't good enough to go before other quarterbacks, and then on top of that, to sit up there and basically look at him as though he's not worthy of going when teams have selected trash in the past and even in this draft. Shedeur Sanders to fall to the 5th round, the 144th pick, and then for Cleveland to take him after they took another quarterback. And the thing that gets me the most is that, I'm going to say this. This wasn't the front office that made this pick. This was the owner. The front office, there's no way in hell you telling me that front office looked at that quarterback room and said, yeah, we're good. Deshaun Watson, he's out for the season. We got Joe Flacco, aging Joe Flacco, super old Joe Flacco. We got Kenny Pickett, and we got Dylan Gabriel. Yes, we can go into the season with that and have success. There's no way in hell you telling me they looked at that. Even the owner, I feel that the owner looked at that room and said, have you lost every inch of y'all mind? And what was the point of doing this to Shedeur? What was the point of that? What in the hell did you prove? You didn't prove anything. All you did was make people disgusted at the fact that you could do something like that. I mean, understand this. I don't agree with Donald Trump's politics, but I agree with him when he said it was wrong. And again, to see Shedeur, the best quarterback in college last year, and there was so many things where they were trying their best to poke holes into his play, and not understanding that this guy is fantastic. Like, his touch on the football is crazy. His accuracy is just as crazy. Then you're talking about he had that amount of yardage, that minimal amount of interceptions with barely an offensive line and zero running game. Unlike his counterpart, Cam Ward, Shedeur had 0 running game and still put up fantastic numbers. There's no way you telling me that even teams with aging quarterbacks or quarterbacks that eventually they're going to have to look at and say, we might want to get younger here, a LA Rams, a Detroit Lions, a Las Vegas Raiders, I'm going to get to them too. There's no way that you didn't see a Miami Dolphins. I'm going to get to them as well. There's no way you saw Shedeur sitting there, and there wasn't even a thought to say, he's still sitting there. Let's take him here. To have to wait to the 4th round, and then to be chosen by a team that had the audacity to take a quarterback before him that wasn't even as good as him. When they talk about Dylan Gabriel, they talk about his traits. And you telling me that somehow, some way, that Dylan Gabriel was a better quarterback than Shedeur, that you had to take him first and then take Shedeur later? There's no way you telling me the NFL didn't have something to do with this. Because understand this is not a storyline. And not only that, because the owner, because I do feel that the owner was involved in picking Shedeur, I don't feel it was the front office. Now we're going to deal with a situation where Kevin Stefanski, and how do I know this? Because we dealt with the same situation here in Washington when Jay Gruden sat up there and Dan Snyder sat up there and took Dwayne Haskins, and Jay Gruden didn't want Dwayne Haskins. We dealt with that same situation here, in which Jay Gruden was purposely trying to make Dwayne Haskins fail. That is why Jay Gruden isn't in the NFL now. Because instead of him being the bigger coach or understanding what his job was, he sat up there and he sat up there and was trying to force a guy to fail because he didn't want to sit up there and be the mentor or wanted to be the coach to sit up there and get Dwayne Haskins up to speed. Because his job was in jeopardy. Guess what? If you would have developed the guy, maybe you would have stayed here another year because the owner would have appreciated the fact that you sat up there and developed the quarterback he chose. But it was very disgusting work. Very, very disgusting work by the NFL. And now I'm going to get to those teams that needed a quarterback, needed a top-level quarterback, and didn't take him. So let's start with the New York Giants. New York Giants fans, I'm going to say it because y'all don't want to say it. Y'all don't want to believe it, but I'll say it for you. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll is sabotaging the New York Giants. The reason y'all didn't get the #1 overall pick was because everybody was talking about how Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll was on the hot seat and they were more than likely going to be fired at the end of the season, and Brian Daboll purposely won the game so they could lose that #1 overall pick. That's what Brian Daboll did. Joe Schoen, again, in a second season, fails as general manager to do something intelligent and take a top-level quarterback, but instead trades back into the first round to get a guy that is going to take some time to develop. You already sitting up there already talking about Russell Wilson is going to be the starter and his backup is going to be Jameis Winston. Not only that, your rookie quarterback is going to struggle to even beat out Tommy DeVito. So now, if no other Giants fan wanted to hear this, or even John Mara, who may not want to hear this, you should have fired Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll before the season. Well, at the end of last season, you should have fired both of them because they both deserve to be fired. They did not do their jobs. Even now, we're still seeing the lack of due diligence by them in the fact that they moved up back into the first round to take Jackson Dart. Jackson Dart. That was so stupid. So stupid. And Giants fans, be ready. Because even with that, not only did they sit up there and go back into the first round to draft a Jackson Dart, who would have been around for their pick in the second round. Hell, he probably would have been around for their pick in the third round. Nobody was looking at Jackson Dart that way. Nobody felt Jackson Dart should have been a first round pick at all. Giants fans, I'm not even a Giants fan, but I feel sorry for y'all because y'all got competency at the highest of levels running your franchise and sitting up there and promising the owner certain things and they're not coming through. Joe Schoen and Brian Daboll is sabotaging the Giants, and they both should have been fired at the end of the season. Again, a second year where Hard Knocks didn't even happen. All because of them. A second year we see them poorly do their due diligence. And we saw Brian Daboll just happy and cheering and stuff like that because they got Jackson Dart. Are you out of your mind? Are you out of your mind? Then let's get to the Cleveland Browns. Again, there's no way that a front office and a head coach looked at that quarterback room and said, yep, yep. Before picking Shedeur, yep, we feel comfortable with this group. There's no way you looked at that quarterback room, see that Deshaun Watson, who's been having bad seasons since his last really good season with the Texans, and he's out for the season with an Achilles. There's no way you saw Joe Flacco, Kenny Pickett, and Dylan Gabriel and said, you know what? If we got to go into the next season, this is how we're going to do it. We trust these quarterbacks. There's no way you looked at that room and thought that was a great quarterback room. Before picking Shedeur Sanders, there's no way you looked at that room and thought it was a high level group. No way. And to Cleveland Browns fans, this is exactly why you guys fail every single time. Cleveland has been through the years, has always had top level talent, has had the ability to get top level talent when they really needed it. They've always had it. And yet and still, it's always been stupidity in the front office or by the coaching staff that has made them fail every single year. There is no way you telling me that Cleveland Browns team last year should have lost that many games when it was that highly talented. That group was supremely talented and it lost that many games. Makes zero sense. And then you have the nerve to sit up there and take Shedeur in the 5th round after you selected Dylan Gabriel? And then have the nerve to get on the phone with him and tell him, hey, we're bringing your slot. It's now over for you. You're going to be a Cleveland Brown. We're going to give you every opportunity to succeed. You could have told him that in the 2nd round. You could have told him that in the 2nd round. You could have told him that in the 3rd round. You could have told him that in the 4th round. Nah, you waited till he got to the 5th. And not only that, you waited till you got to the 5th. You also waited till you drafted another quarterback before him. One who's not on the same level of skill that he's on. And then it's the whole conversation of, well, it's not when you get drafted, it's how you perform once you're drafted. Man, get the F out of here. It's no way you gonna tell me that you draft a guy that I'm better than, and I'm supposed to just sit there, suck it up, and be okay with it? Get out of here. That's BS. Nobody wants to hear that. Nobody wants to care about that. No, hell no. Then the Pittsburgh Steelers. People talking about, well, they're gonna what teams will want to do is they're gonna want to wait until next year's quarterback class, when they're gonna want to wait till next year's quarterback class, which is a much better quarterback class. You really want to wait till next year with a chance that Mike Tomlin, who's not had a losing season since he became coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers, you're going to tempt fate with the opportunity to draft a quarterback in next year's draft when you know that there's not even a chance of you getting up high enough to draft said quarterback next year? Especially when you're talking about Mike Tomlin, who has not had a losing season since he became the coach of the Pittsburgh Steelers. You want to trust in that? And then you're sitting here and you're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to show up. Aaron Rodgers? You're waiting for Aaron Rodgers to come in. Aaron Rodgers doesn't even fit what the Pittsburgh organization has stood for years. Pittsburgh never loves players like Aaron Rodgers because they've built a culture of standard. They built a standard and a culture that is predominantly about players who are all in on day one. They did it to Russell Wilson. Russell Wilson was used to having offices and all types of stuff. Brought him in, demanded him to be a team player, and that's what they got. Aaron Rodgers is sitting out there still not signing, talking about he's not sure what he wants to do and all that. That's the type of guy you depending on? Y'all got rid of Antonio Brown because of this very thing. Y'all got rid of Plaxico Burress because of this very thing. Y'all got rid of Le'Veon Bell because of this very thing. Y'all got rid of players that y'all all thought did not live up to that Pittsburgh Steeler culture and standard. And this is the guy you want to rely on? A guy who doesn't even like to come to camp when he's supposed to? A guy that comes with his own coach? That's what you want to rely on, Pittsburgh? That's not even the standard you set for the players for so long. Everybody understood that Pittsburgh was a no-nonsense type of organization. And you telling me that you're going to depend on Aaron Rodgers, Mr. I go into the darkness? That Aaron Rodgers? The guy who sits up there and goes on a Pat McAfee show and talks trash about the players on the team or the coaches on the team? That Aaron Rodgers? That's what Pittsburgh has always had, a standard and a culture that Aaron Rodgers does not work well in. And that's who you're waiting on to be your quarterback next year? A guy who refuses to learn a new offense? A guy who sat up there and has been a locker room cancer, not only to his former team where he won a Super Bowl many years ago, but also to this new team. Once the head coach was fired and he was basically leading that, the team sunk into the trash. The defense wasn't the same, everything like that. Why? Because Aaron Rodgers, basically, the team took the personality of the strongest personality, and that personality is a weak-minded personality. That's exactly what it was. And I don't care how people feel about Aaron Rodgers. I know you're going to have a whole bunch of them that's like, he's still one of the best quarterbacks there is in the NFL. No, he's not. He's not that no more. And the fact that y'all accept his personality like it's okay and think that it's fine, that's what you want to do, Pittsburgh? That is so sad that Pittsburgh has now dwindled its culture and its standard to appease one guy. And that guy may not even be that dang good. He hasn't even signed a contract yet. And y'all waiting around on him? And y'all had the nerve to pass on Shedeur, who would have made so much sense as the future quarterback of the Pittsburgh Steelers? That's what you did? Then let's talk about the Las Vegas Raiders. Oh yeah, we need to talk about them. Because the Raiders, that was just as stupid too. Geno Smith is up there in age. He's up there. And you telling me you're going to rely on him to be your starter for what, the next 5 years? That's what you're going to do? And then the fact that Shedeur has always talked about how Tom Brady is his mentor, that Tom Brady didn't even have enough power to say, what the hell are you doing? We're going to bring Shedeur in. Nah, we're going to punt again. It's okay to lose. Because next year we're going to be in a draft where there's all these quarterbacks. How do you talk to your fans? Explain to your fans that you're okay with the possibility of losing so much that you're going to have a high draft pick next year to get your future quarterback. How do you explain that to your fans? Las Vegas? How? How do you do that? How do you explain to your fans who've been sitting here following you from LA, from Oakland to Las Vegas? How do you explain to them that you're okay with possibly getting to a point at where you've won more than enough games that you don't even have the opportunity to move up and get the picks, to get an opportunity to pick a quarterback? How do you explain that to your fans? That you were insane enough to not take the best quarterback coming out of college? Explain that. Explain that. And last, I'm going to talk about the Miami Dolphins for a minute, because the Miami Dolphins, y'all didn't think that y'all needed a quarterback too? That y'all didn't think that, oh shoot, Shedeur's on the board, Tua keeps getting these concussions, let's bring in Shedeur just in case, because we can't rely on Tua possibly playing the whole season. And man, if he gets his next big concussion, that may be it. Nah, there wasn't no thought about that, was it? Not one single thought about the fact that Tua, who's been experiencing concussions since back when he was in Alabama, you want to rely on a guy who has that level of concussion history to be your full-time starter, as another guy is on the board with an opportunity to be taken? You telling me that you didn't think about that? You telling me that you didn't think about taking a Shedeur Sanders? Yeah, this was even worse than what they did to Colin Kaepernick. Way worse. And Colin Kaepernick didn't deserve that. But you're telling me a guy who hasn't even gotten into the NFL, hasn't gotten an opportunity to play in the NFL, he deserved that type of treatment? Y'all really felt he deserved that type of treatment? He didn't deserve that. Y'all, thank God that he's so immersed in his faith beliefs and his religious beliefs that it didn't destroy him or and I do feel he's going to come in with a chip that y'all have never seen before on a quarterback. And how do you not sit up there and pay attention to that? This guy is a fantastic quarterback. We've seen the Cleveland Browns take the oldest rookie in Brendan Wheaton at 28 years old. We've seen them take what was a complete enigma in Spurgeon Wynn. We seen them take a guy who was basically gonna flame out very quickly in the NFL in Johnny Manziel. And then we saw them basically 2 years later bring in Baker Mayfield. And you're telling me that Shedeur Sanders didn't deserve to be picked until the 5th round? The New Orleans Saints. What now? The New Orleans Saints, I tell people all the time, I'm going to say this. I'm going to give New Orleans a pass. And you know why? I think Spencer Rattler is the better quarterback. I think Spencer Rattler comes into this season and he's going to knock the socks off of Kellen Moore and his ability. Tyler Shough is sitting up there 27 damn years old and he gets picked in the 2nd round. Get out of here, man. I hope Shedeur is extremely successful. I hope he gets Cleveland on the cusp of winning it all. And I hope it's in his final season. So he can sit up there and walk the hell away from him. Because you know why? Cleveland has done dirty stuff like this for a very long time. And that's why they're always doomed to a destiny of failure over and over and over again. Remember, they were the ones who picked up Robert Griffin III. Robert Griffin III threw his shoulder out and never returned back to the NFL. Cleveland has been drafting quarterbacks for years, and it's never panned out. Because you know why? They kind of shitted on Ken Anderson when he was a quarterback years ago. Y'all tell me what y'all think. How do y'all feel about what happened to Shedeur Sanders? Are y'all as outraged as I am? And do y'all think that there was collusion involved when it came to Shedeur Sanders falling in the draft? Y'all tell me what y'all think. I will be back when I evaluate the Commanders draft, and I'll tell y'all how I feel about that draft and everything. But other than that, this has been your man, John Fortune, and this has been the Frustrated Fan Sports Show.